Well, after a momentous decision like this, there are inevitably winners and losers. And to look at who's winning and who's losing, we have Azhar Sukri, our senior business producer, in the studio. Azhar.
Thanks, Matt. Well, clearly the big winners today are the Leave campaigners. UKIP leader Nigel Farage has praised a victory for real people and described June the 23rd as the country's Independence Day. Now, many small and medium-sized businesses in the UK have been very vocal in their support of a Brexit. They've argued that EU's unnecessary regulations and red tape have held them back. Those wanting to reduce immigration will also be celebrating this victory as a chance to take back Britain's border controls, as they put it. There are questions over this, though. If a future government wants to access Europe's single market, they still have to accept the free movement of people. And the losers? Well, there are many. If you're a shareholder in banking stocks, it's looking as though a tough day for you. We've seen losses of more than 30% so far in big banks like Barclays and the Royal Bank of Scotland. The UK's trade with Europe will also have to suffer from this vote. Britain's imports from the bloc are valued at over $400 billion. With the pound hitting its lowest level in more than 30 years, importing goods will now be more expensive. And of course, today's biggest loser, arguably, is Prime Minister David Cameron. He's announced he will resign after failing to convince the public to stay in the EU. Let's take a look now at how he got to this point and the legacy he leaves behind. This must have been the moment David Cameron had dreaded for months. In the early morning light, he faced a nation that had just voted to leave Europe and a legacy in tatters. How different things were just over a year ago. Against tough odds, Cameron won last year's general election and gave the Tories an overall majority, shaking off the Liberals with whom they'd had to share power in the previous parliament. But he won partly because of his promise to hold a referendum on the EU.
We will give the British people a referendum with a very simple in or out choice.
Euroscepticism has been the main fault line in British politics, and the Conservative Party in particular, for decades. Cameron assumed that people in the UK would vote to remain, based on arguments about the economic benefits of staying in. It was an attempt to silence the dissenters within his own party and beyond. But it was also a gamble in the face of anger at what many see as stifling and unnecessary bureaucracy coming from Brussels and uncontrolled immigration. Cameron had been on a roll. In the 2014 referendum, he campaigned for Scotland to remain in the United Kingdom and won.
We want you to stay. Head, heart and soul, we want you to stay.
He was praised for planning widespread social reforms, including changes to the prison system and building 1 million new homes.
The total number of votes cast in favour of leave was 17,410,742.
But Europe has overshadowed all of that, and Cameron is most likely going to be remembered as the man who took Britain out of the EU. Azhar Sukri, TRT World.